Finally, the Stage 3 Major is upon us, and as you look up and down this weekend schedules, there are storylines all over the place. Which team is going to end up making it to that grand finals when you have squads that are up there in the winners bracket, such as Toronto and the streak that they've been in. You have Atlanta FaZe up there that has looked really great as of late. Of course, you cannot forget about New York. And also, if you look underneath, you have some scary squads down there in the losers bracket that could potentially, for sure, make an entire losers bracket run and potentially end up winning this thing come championship Sunday. But today, point of this video is to really take an in-depth look at the 4 matches that we're going to be seeing on this kickoff Thursday, and we're going to break those down, get you set. I'm going to give you my predictions for those 4. I actually made a predictions video a couple days ago, and there's 1 or 2 that have actually changed just based off of a little bit further look into how those teams have played as of late. But without further ado, this is the schedule for Thursday. Starting things off, we have London versus Paris, Battle of EU there. After that one's over, we got LAG versus Seattle, followed by the first 2 matches in the winners bracket, which is Atlanta FaZe versus the Dallas Empire. And last but not least, rounding things out will be the Florida Mutineers versus the LA Thieves. So in this one, we're going to go match by match. I cannot wait for these. By the way, I love the change that they made in the schedule. I love the fact that they went ahead and they took the Wednesday out. So now when it comes to this schedule, we have 4 matches on Thursday, 4 on Friday. We actually have 5 matches on Saturday, and although there are only 3 matches on Sunday, that grand finals matchup is a best of 9, so that's almost like having 4 matches on Sunday. So I love the fact that they went ahead, they made that change, and I think it'll be a much better, more fulfilling weekend because of it. But as we go ahead and bring up this graphic, we're going to go ahead and start with the very first matchup of the day between the London Royal Ravens and the Paris Legion. And for me, when it comes down to this matchup, I really do feel like this is a story of 2 different squads that are totally on separate trajectories. When you look at London and how they've performed as of late, their last 3 matches, get a load of this, all 3 of them they've either won or went to a map 5. So 3 matches ago, they played the New York Subliners, which has been absolutely unbelievable, ended up winning their group in this stage. It went all the way to map 5, in which they ended up winning that map 5 search and destroy 6-4 in round 10. So they got a victory over New York, who has looked phenomenal. They took the Atlanta FaZe to a map 5. And then just as of late, everybody was really excited between the matchup between London and Seattle after Seattle had made that roster move. And it really wasn't all that close of a match at all. London came out, they won that one 3-1. So as of late, London has looked like a pretty impressive squad. I don't want to call them a dark horse, but I absolutely think this is a match that they should win based off of how they're playing. Whereas where you look at Paris, even though they do have a victory over Florida in the stage 3 group play, they only had 4 map wins in total. So if you take away those 3 maps that they won against Florida, basically after that, they're getting swept. They got swept by LAG. They got swept by Toronto. They won 1 map against Minnesota. They just have not really been able to figure it out as of late. And the matches that they have lost really haven't been that close at all. So for me, this is really just a story of 2 different squads that are clearly in a couple different places here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take London and move them ahead into the elimination bracket round 2 with a potential matchup with the Minnesota Rocker, and this one could be pretty tight. Down in the comments with each of these, let me know if you agree or disagree, or if you feel something a little bit different. But as we head into the second match of the day, we have a matchup here between the Los Angeles Guerrillas and the Seattle Surge, and this is very close to kind of what we were just talking about. So again, when it comes to the LA Guerrillas, this stage, they have been super consistent. Their last 3 matches, they have taken teams like Dallas, Florida, and Minnesota all to map 5. Now, they haven't won any of those map 5s, but they are super competitive against teams like that. They did get a 3-0 victory over the Paris Legion, which you can take that for what it's worth. But even though their overall record in this stage has not been phenomenal, their map record has not been terrible. They are not getting blown out. Whereas when you look at the Seattle Surge, it seems like this is a team where you're like, okay, they needed to make a roster team. They brought in Decimate. They dropped Looney. This is what they needed to really excel, and they just haven't really been doing it. If you look at the entirety of their Stage 3 group play, they have also won 4 maps. Just 4 maps throughout 5 entire matches. They just don't look great. In their most recent match, they got 3-1 against the London Royal Ravens. Before that, they lost in pretty decisive fashion to the Atlanta FaZe, lost to New York, they're just not looking great right now. So again, you have one squad in LAG who is pretty much performing with some of the other top squads that was in their group, and you have Seattle, which you really cannot say the same for. So as we go ahead and move them over, that sets us up with a matchup in the winner's bracket between 2 squads that I don't know. I think that both of these matches could go either way. I think that one is probably a little bit easier to pick than the other. But as we look at these here, the first one of the day is Atlanta versus Dallas. And when we talk about this one, I don't know. These are 2 squads that, again, if I had to pick a winner like I did the other day, I picked Atlanta to come out and win this whole thing just because I think they are absolutely nasty. And although they have shown that they're at least a little bit human and they can be beat, I just don't think that's something that they're consistently going to do. If you talk about their Stage 3 group play overall, yes, they did come out and they did suffer that loss in the very first matchup to New York. But after that, they got victories over the LA Thieves, London Royal Ravens, Seattle, and the most recent one was that completely dominant victory over Optic Chicago. Whereas, if you look at Dallas, it's kind of a similar story, maybe in a way. If you look at their group play, they did get 3-0'd by both Toronto Ultra and the Florida Legion, but they were able to pick up an impressive victory over Minnesota. And then you can say what you want against, the wins that they had against LAG and Paris. But as of right now, I just feel like this is really going to come down to 3 different teams this tournament for me. What's going to happen with Atlanta, what's going to happen with Toronto, and what's going to happen with New York. So as we look at this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick Atlanta to win this initial matchup, which is going to take Dallas and put them down into round 3 of the losers bracket. So that is the third match. Again, in the comments, let me know. Agree, disagree? Do you see something else happening here? And last but not least, this brings us to Florida versus the LA Thieves. And again, this is a Florida squad that is up one day, down the next. You don't really know what to expect from them. If you just take a peek at their group stage path and how it went, 0-3 lost to Toronto, came back, got a 3-1 victory over Minnesota. Really impressive. Next match, 1-3 loss to Paris. And the match after that, they got a 3-0 victory over Dallas. It's just up and then it's down, and you can't really know which Florida is going to end up showing up. But I do think that they're a scary squad, especially, we have said time and time again, when it comes to their flex and their main AR, Skies and Awakening are absolutely filthy. I would put them up against any flex and main AR in the league. Sure, they have to develop their SMG duo a little bit, but I think it'll come in due time. And on the other side of things, you have the LA Thieves. When you look at the LA Thieves, as of late, you can really only take into consideration the one match that they played this series against the New York Subliners, because, of course, that's when they came through and they made the move to bring in Huke the Nuke. Of course, they're going to get that figured out. But you might say at first glance, in that matchup against New York Subliners, you expected them to come out and play really well, and they ended up losing 1-3. But in that 1-3, no doubt about it, the first hardpoint map, they got 100-point clubbed, and it is what it is. They lost 250 to 93. But after that, the map 2, the Search and Destroy, went to around 11. They barely lost that second map. And then when it goes to raid control, they actually took that control map also off of New York. And then the very last, the map 4 in that matchup was a raid hardpoint where they essentially lost one rotation down towards the end, and that ended up being the the difference in how they ended up losing by 30 there to New York. So when you're looking at what LA Thieves has done as of late, sure, with their new roster, we only have one match to go off of, but in that one match, it was against a really hot New York subliner squad, and they looked pretty good because of it. So after a little bit more digging and a little bit more research, I really think in this one, I'm going to take the LA Thieves to win this matchup, to set up a potential matchup here with the New York Subliners, which is going to take the Florida Mutineers and move them down into round 3 of the elimination bracket. Of course, I'm pretty positive Florida will end up going on a run here. They are a nasty squad. For me, this one really was a coin flip. I just think with what LA Thieves shown against a really hot streaking New York squad after basically a few days of practice, I think that they're a team that you want to watch out for. So just to recap here, we end up going with London over Paris, LAG over the Seattle Surge, Atlanta FaZe over the Dallas Empire, and the LA Thieves over the Florida Mutineers. So down in the comments below, let me know, do you agree? Do you disagree with this breakdown? Do you think there's a team or two that you might predict different than I love reading the comments and love those interactions. So looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. If you're new around here, you enjoy this sort of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you don't mind, because it really helps out the channel. And with that, enjoy the first day of matches. We will talk to you guys tomorrow's upload.